Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Tuesday, February 15th, 2020. Joining me on the line, Fletcher Sharpe. Good to talk with you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Oh, of course. We've got a lot to cover. At the end of the show, we're going to tell you about a giveaway where you're going to get a couple of very cool free things. But first, Detroit City FC has a signing. Michael Bryant, he's a California native. He is a midfielder. What does this bring to Rouge?
Versatility. Michael Bryant played for California United Strikers as a classically trained more as a defensive midfielder, but he played a lot more of his time as a center back. His college days, he spent more time in the midfield, scoring a few goals for his college team. As professionally, kind of transitioned further back, I think more by necessity, as California United Strikers had a bit of a problem defensively keeping people healthy. I think for Detroit, it'll probably occupy the same level, given that Detroit plays with three people in the back as opposed to the more traditional flat four. I think he'll add some versatility. I don't think he'll take any of the center back starting positions right now, but he was once a captain for California United Strikers. That's something I've noticed DCFC's been adding. A lot of players who have worn the armband for their teams at one point or another, which shows they value leadership on and off the field. If you give someone the armband like that, which is the signal to declare that someone is a captain on the field, it means you trust that they can help lead a team. So getting a bunch of people who have worn the armband at one point or another is a good thing. It shows that you have a team of mentally resilient, stout people. Considering the fact this is going to be their first year in a established league as an expansion club, you're going to need those mentally sound people to help push through, because the year could be very tough.
I looked at his background collegiately. He scored 31 goals in 49 appearances. Might he have a little bit of firepower under the hood?
I mean, that's the point I was making, is he traditionally seems to be more of a defensive midfielder, so he can get up there and maybe add a few goals. I'm sure most of the goals he's scored at Elmira, so not a huge school, but at Elmira, were probably more so of get the ball to him in a penalty kick spot and let him score, or hey, he's kind of trailing behind the play, the ball rolls backwards, kind of in basketball, you have that your center kind of trailing, he catches it to shoot a three-pointer. I think he's more of like he trails behind and like scores. I don't think you give him the ball at the top of the field, let him dribble by five people and he puts it in the net. Doesn't seem to be that type of player. Otherwise, I think he would have transitioned to that as a professional. But I do think he adds kind of a Matty Lewis effect, Stephen Carroll effect of having a defender who can get up there and contribute in the box to score, which is very helpful, especially when your offense is kind of sputtering right now. If you can get goals from anybody, get goals from anybody. If you're not going to get them from up top, you want to get them from whoever you can. So bringing in a center back who has a bit of a pedigree to score, center back / midfielder has a bit of a pedigree to score, is very helpful.
So we only have a few more signings left to go. Like, this team is really starting to fill out. I did notice on some of the rankings that it's DCFC kind of creeps up a little bit. That's a good thing. Are there a couple of things that you're still looking for? Are you still looking for more firepower? What are you looking for?
Yeah, really more firepower. You want to get people who can put the ball in the net. And while it's not necessarily reliant on having your forwards be the people to score goals for you, you typically want your forwards to be the people to score goals for you. You can get goals from anywhere. The ultimate goal of soccer, obviously, is to score more than your opponent, but that also means letting your opponent score as little as possible. So if you build a team that wins games 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 0-0, 2-1, that's totally fine. But you're going to have a few games where you're going to need to score some goals. And I'm a little bit worried about their offensive firepower going forward, just because right now it's not looking stellar. Pato is more of a hold-up number 9 being the center forward, more of a guy who gets the ball and kind of holds it up for his teammates to come and help. Hapino, who they signed last week, is more of an assisting forward who shows up there to say, hey, I'm here. Let me get the ball to someone who can do something in front of the net. I'm here to kind of just help create and make space for people. Connor Rutz, who they have, is really more of a wing forward. He's not someone who you get the ball and say, now go score me 20 goals a season. He's more of, I get the ball out here, I get it to somebody else, maybe chip in with 4 or 5 from the wing, but I'm not the guy who's going to score you 15, 20 goals in a season. So currently they don't have a guy who's going to just go in there and say, you know what, it's my turn, I got you, let me go score some goals. So that's a little bit concerning. For me, at least. I know with Nisa it didn't really matter so much because their team was so much better. They could maybe chip in with 1 or 2 accidental goals and then just hold everyone scoreless. That will not happen this year, and I keep having to emphasize that so people are ready for when it happens. That will not happen this year. You will not come in and allow 14 goals in 2 years. That is not going to happen this year. So be prepared for some games that will become shootouts. And if you don't have the people who can put the ball in the net, you'll be the one getting shot.
We're looking at what? It's just a month or so until the regular season opens at home. It's crazy. I mean, I'm looking at snow outside the studio, but the season is almost here.
And it's going to be even sooner for DCFC. They have a friendly coming up this week in Indiana against Indy 11, a closed-door friendly, so we'll get to hear the results about that later. But their first game is on the road against San Antonio FC, who is one of the reigning teams to get to the final, the Western Coast, before they have a home game against the Charleston Battery March 19th. So, yeah, they're probably going to have a game that has a little bit of snow around the surroundings. I'm sure the field will be fine. I'm sure the stadium will be okay. You might see some patches of ice outside, maybe a little bit of, breath in the air type of thing. But, I mean, yeah, it's what you expect when you go to a more established league with more games. The calendar gets a bit wider, so you're going to have a few games and some not the best weather.
I do want to mention about this Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. Now, longtime soccer fans will probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but I know that we have a lot of listeners that are more on the newer side of things, and I want to talk about what that is because I'm excited about the idea that Detroit City FC could play a variety of teams at a variety of levels, but why don't you unpack it for me to help me fully understand really what's going on? Because this brings teams together all the way up from MLS, all through USLC, and even NISA. So can you talk about what exactly this is?
It's number one, the best competition in this entire country, bar none. And it's not just because I'm a fan of soccer or anything of the sort. You could take this tournament schedule skeleton and put it towards any sport, essentially, and I think it'll still make it great. So essentially, I'll put it in terms so people can understand a bit better before I bring it back to soccer. If your little baseball team you have with your work buddies, baseball club for fun, whatever your name is, I don't care. But you have a baseball club with your friends, you play around, you play in a men's league, you do really well, you win your men's league area. They're like, hey, guess what? You've won your tournament. Why don't you go travel and play other men's leagues who've won their league? And it's like, cool, we win this league. Hey, guess what? Your next game will be against the Toledo Mud Hens. You've won enough games, you get to play against the Mud Hens now. You beat the Mud Hens. Guess what? Your next game against the Colorado Rockies. So essentially, what happens is you get to play for soccer a bunch of. It starts off with the tournament before the proper version of the tournament. It's the preliminaries. So a bunch of smaller clubs will play against each other in these preliminary games to see who wins the chance to go to this tournament. And then after the tournament reaches its proper round, which will include teams from the Major League Soccer, USL Championship, USL League One, USL League Two, NISA, the MPSL, US UPSL, USSAA, any other level of soccer, throws them all together. Teams from almost every state in the country. And essentially you play at the first round as a bunch of more local level teams playing against each other, maybe against a few MPSL, USL League Two teams. So like teams that are more local in flavor, maybe they bring players in from other parts of the country, but it's still like AFC Ann Arbor or Des Moines Menace or Minneapolis City SC. It's still like we still have our own roots. Then you get to round two, and it's like, all right, now we bring in some of the more lower level professional teams. So DCFC makes their appearance in round two. Charleston Battery, who we mentioned, makes their appearance in round two. Los Angeles Force make their appearance in round two. Then you get to round three, and it's more of the higher level second division teams, or like even some of the lower MLS teams. So like maybe Chicago Fire make their appearance now, or the Colorado Rapids make their appearance now. Then you get to round four, and then it's like, this is where all the really good MLS teams are. So LAFC, Columbus Crew, Portland Timbers, Seattle Sounders, etc. Now they all make their appearances. And by this point, if you're still around as a lower level team, now you're playing against these professional people you've seen on television. It's why I think it's so great, is because it allows like your little beer league dreams of you playing soccer with your friends and your little club you just made up, winning your little local league so you can have fun in front of the bar that you won in. You can win that league, play in another league, play in a tournament playoff, and end up playing against the LA Galaxy on ESPN. One of the best stories is Christos FC, which started out as a team made up of a supermarket in Baltimore. and they went to the third round a few years back and played against DC United and actually took the lead against DC United with a superb free kick in the 20th minute. They ultimately ended up losing 4-1 to DC United, but it's a bunch of people who either played collegiately at one point, played professionally a long time ago, or just worked at the grocery store playing against some seasoned professionals. One of the biggest moments I've ever experienced with the U.S. Open Cup was the Michigan Bucks, back before they became the Flint City Bucks, hosted the Chicago Fire in their indoor facility, and they beat the Chicago Fire 3-2 on an amazing bicycle kick that happened in the 110th minute. It was stunning to see, and you get to see all these really young players playing really well against these professional players, and you see them make a name for themselves. You see someone play really well here, 5 years later you hear his name called in the draft, or 5 years later you see he's playing for some other club, and it's just, I got to watch this guy locally play, and I love it because it opens up the sport to the entire country. You get to see teams you didn't know existed, like I said, and teams in Honolulu, teams in Anchorage, Alaska, teams in South Dakota, teams in Southern Texas, teams in Northern Idaho. It's just all these teams you didn't expect to be around just all of a sudden pop up. And it's like, wow, all this talent is here. And also these names you might see, players you've heard before who just disappeared for a while. It's like, what's this guy doing? Oh, I heard this guy was an accountant. Well, guess what? He's an accountant, but he's also crunching numbers up top for this lower level team who's now in the U.S. Open Cup. So it's really a great way to kind of keep the sport going cyclically. And I really appreciate the fact that it's back now. It's been off the last 2 years because of COVID, and I understand exactly why, especially with the travel between teams. So yes, DCFC will be in the U.S. Open Cup for the first time as a professional club this year, which is great. Unfortunately,
I knew this was coming, and I'll tell you, I do want to mention really quick, this second storyline is going to be so much fun to watch, especially if we can, make it through some early rounds. And our first opponent, I wish it wasn't so familiar.
Yeah, the first opponent, unfortunately, is the Michigan Stars, who everyone thought they were through with after leaving NISA. Michigan Stars, who are the glitter of soccer clubs for DCFC, where it's like, hey, we're in NPSL, we're going to be in NPSL too. Oh, now we're going to be in NISA. We're going to be in NISA too. It's like, well, now we're in the USL Championship. He's like, well, can't move up that level, so I guess we're just stuck. Not really, because guess what? Your first meaningful game in the U.S. Open Cup as a professional club, you're playing us. So, it's like you just don't escape them. I understand why they did it, and the reason why is because the U.S. Open Cup, in my opinion, was a bit better before when they let people just go wherever. But it's hard to do that because finances. You have to think that your little beer league club is playing all these other teams in your area, and it's like, great, now you've won this game in your state, now go to Virginia on a week's notice. And it's hard to do. Perfect example, RWB Adria, red, white, blue Adria out of Chicago. Wonderful Croatian local club. They are amazing, nice people, great food, warm hugs, etc. They came to Michigan a few years back, beat DCFC, then beat Michigan Bucks. And 2 straight weeks, which for them was okay because going from Chicago to Michigan is not that hard. Their next game was in Virginia. And it's like, this is kind of hard to do, but they won anyways. They came back, got to the 4th round, loss. But it's like on a moment's notice, you have to go from winning a game here to going to a different state the following week or the next month or whatever. And it's just raising finances that you sometimes don't have. So to mitigate that and make it easier, they decided we're going to have people play locally first. So unfortunately, the closest club to Detroit City is Michigan Stars. So there was supposed to be another storyline that was supposed to happen, but the rules dictate that suspensions are only valid up to 10 years. George Junkai, back when he ran another club, picked up a red card suspension as a head coach and was suspended from showing up to the U.S. Open Cup. And for his own luck, was unable to show up for the past 10 to 12 years because he's just never been good enough to qualify. So, given that 10 years have passed, if he chooses to be at the home game, which will be at Keyworth Stadium for the U.S. Open Cup, he will be allowed to be there without the league or the federation barring him from showing up.
So we don't have exact dates on this. We'll keep you posted, but this will be a fun other storyline. I did notice that kind of the range for these are going to be midweek games. So this will be in addition to the regular season schedule, correct?
Definitely. The first round will start on March 23rd, and DCFC, while they know their opponent, it's TBD because other teams in their round are waiting on first round opponents to appear. But yeah, these typically will be week games, as March 23rd is a Wednesday. So typically games will be on Wednesdays or Tuesdays or Thursdays. So this will be in addition to the USL Championship games. So it gets kind of hard. It's why soccer is a very hard sport. You want to have as big as roster as possible, because typically these midweek games mean your players are now playing two times in the span of not that much time of recovery. So a day that you typically would use as recovery for practice is now being used to play in an important game, potentially having to travel as well. So you might see the grind get a bit to the team that they have not really had to experience the past few years. We haven't really talked about it, obviously, because U.S. Open Cup has been not been going while DCFC has been a professional team. But part of the reason why some teams struggle professionally isn't really injuries or so much, so to speak. It's more so just fatigue. And the U.S. Open Cup, while it is a great thing, will add some fatigue to these legs. You might see some names you haven't seen in a while suit up for them in the Open Cup just to give some starters some extra breathing room.
Well, I'm excited to watch it regardless. Now, finally, there is a little thing that we're doing, a fun thing for the listeners. We have set up this where, Fletcher, if your soccer skills pan out, our listeners win. So lay it out for us.
DCFC has this promotion going where if you've bought season tickets from them, they will allow you to come in and take a crossbar challenge, which is where you go about 20, 25 yards away from the crossbar. And typically the goal of soccer is to hit the ball with your foot and put it inside the net. Crossbar challenge is you hit the ball with your foot and hit it off the crossbar. So scoring a goal here does not matter much. And because people who've watched me play can very much see that I hit the crossbar a lot while trying to score, this should be very much up my own alley. So I should be fine to do this.
The thing is that, you and I, we go to games. And so it's not as big of a deal for us to get a ticket. So I thought, so we're going to go ahead and take the ticket. If you win, that ticket is going to go to a listener. We're going to raffle that off. But here's the deal. I decided that wasn't enough. So I'm going to double that. We working with the team. We're going to double that. So it's going to be 2 tickets, a pair of tickets that a listener will be able to enter to get for basically a raffle so that you can get season tickets to Detroit City FC based on the power of your foot, Fletcher.
So essentially people are rooting for me to fail to succeed.
Exactly. It's the perfect Detroit story.
Yep. They need me to miss to win for them to then win. So if I go and score a goal, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All I can say is I'm sorry. But I think it's honestly a really cool idea for DCFC to do. Crossbar challenges have been around for a while, but just to allow them to engage with their fans and say, hey, if you bought a season ticket, come here and do this. And if you do this, we'll comp your ticket. So we're saying, you know what? Let's go out there and try to win one for the city. Hopefully you are doing the Dragon Ball Z thing where they put their hands in the sky and help Goku make a spirit bomb. You do that for me so that I can crush this crossbar with all my might.
Oh, we're going to video this. We're going to videotape this. Or video it because we don't really use tape anymore. But we're going to video this and we're going to show this up on our social media. I want this to be a chance to get some people into the game. Maybe it's something you were on the fence about DCFC tickets. Maybe it's something where you couldn't really swing a season ticket. I mean, they're a great value at $150. This is $300 worth of tickets that I'm so glad that we are able to hopefully give away if you can succeed while failing, Fletcher.
You placed a value on my right foot, so now I have to go and deliver.
All right, friends, that is it for today's episode. As always, if you've got feedback, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Make sure to look out for our newsletter and our social media where we will have more updates, as well as next week, more updates on how to get this raffle going. Fletcher Sharpe, I appreciate you.
And I appreciate being appreciated. It's always good to hear nice things about yourself, especially during the winter time.
With that, I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Fletcher Sharpe.
Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.